What's happening in the world? Coming up on NTD News. First, our top stories. How much can Trump say about the 2020 election case? A federal judge decides this morning on the protective order. Find out what it means for Trump. At least 55 people have died and up to 1,000 are still missing after the wildfires in Maui. What caused the fires and how much are search efforts coming along? A possible central bank digital currency here in the U.S. Popular podcaster Joe Rogan says that would be checkmate for society, giving the government too much control. Senator Joe Manchin is skipping a major White House event. It's leaving some speculating what his next move could be. Welcome to NTD News Today. I'm Chris Beers. Our top news. A federal judge this morning ruled in favor of Trump when deciding how much Trump can share about the 2020 election case. But the judge also set limitations, striking down several requests from Trump's team. Joining us now live is NTD's Iris Tao from outside the courthouse. Iris, what's this morning's hearing all about?
Hey, good afternoon, Chris. So you're right. So this morning, Trump's lawyers as well as federal prosecutors appeared at this courthouse right behind me for the first hearing held in Trump's 2020 election case. And this whole hearing is about the DOJ's request for a broad protective order against Trump and his team, which would basically restrict what they can share about details in the case when it comes to witness interviews as well as grand jury materials. So the federal prosecutors cited a Truth Social post by Trump last week that read, "If you go after me, I'm coming after you." And they argued that if Trump shares about details in the case, he might risk intimidating witnesses in this case. But Trump's lawyers argue that it's Trump's First Amendment rights to share about things like that, and it called for a strict, a rather narrower protective order that would only protect sensitive materials. And the judge in charge of this case, Judge Tanya Chutkan, this morning largely cited was Trump's team, saying that Trump will only be prohibited from sharing about sensitive materials. And she said that the Justice Department has not shown a good enough cause for their broad protective order. However, the judge also delivered a win to the prosecutors by basically giving a rather broad definition of what could be considered sensitive. For example, she struck down Trump's team's request for designating witness transcripts and videos as non-sensitive, saying that if these materials are shared with the public, they might risk intimidating the witnesses. And she also pushed back against Trump's claim that this whole protective order could risk impacting Trump's 2024 election campaign. And she said in the courtroom, quote, "The existence of a political campaign is not going to have any bearing on her decision." So now we do expect Trump's team to continue decrying that the Justice Department's indictment of Trump as well as its latest attempt to limit what Trump can share about the case are election interference. But it does remain to be seen how this rather mixed ruling by the judge this morning could impact what Trump can say next. Chris.
Thank you, Iris. Turning to Maui, where searches continue after fast-moving wildfires scorched the island. The death toll has now hit 55 and could still rise. Police say more than 1,000 people remain unaccounted for. Footage shows destroyed buildings and charred trees in Lahaina, the historic town almost wiped out in the blazes. Smoke still drifts from the rubble 4 days into the disaster. Maui County Mayor Richard Bisson Jr. said an outpouring of help is on the way. More than 10,000 customers are out of power on Maui, and the situation could last for weeks. At least 2,000 are seeking shelter. Residents and tourists continue to evacuate Maui. Hawaii Governor Josh Green called it the worst natural disaster to ever hit Hawaii. He said hundreds of homes have been destroyed. Officials said the damage could take years to restore. How did these fires become so devastating? To delve deeper, let's take a look at what's going on there and how it's happening.
The cause of the blazes was still not clear days after they began. The fires have hit large parts of Lahaina, a beach resort city of about 13,000 people on northwestern Maui, especially hard. It sits in the relative middle of the 8 main islands that make up Hawaii's archipelago. What experts do know is that conditions were ripe for wildfires there before they sparked off on Tuesday.
Maui was in a a D1, D2 severe drought for the season. And the risk for large fire potential was higher there than it was in California.
That's San Jose State University meteorology professor Craig Clements. The National Weather Service had also issued warnings for the Hawaiian Islands for high winds and dry weather. U.S. weather officials say winds from Hurricane Dora have fanned the flames across the U.S. state, coming from hundreds of miles southwest of the Hawaiian Islands in the Pacific Ocean. Separately, a low-pressure system to the west near Japan has also contributed to sustained high winds. These all become a serious problem when they reach Maui's very steep mountain range.
The winds were coming from the northeast, and they were very strong winds. They were descending, going up and over the mountain range and descending what we call the lee side. And when that happens, you get acceleration near the surface. And so you get actually faster winds on the downslope side or the lee side of the mountain range.
Dry vegetation is also a contributing factor. Here's Oregon State University professor Erica Fleischman.
You can think of it as plants being thirstier, so plants use more water when the air temperature is higher. So the water that is present tends to disappear more rapidly.
Fueling that problem, the spread of flammable, non-native grasses brought in from around the world in areas of former farmland and forest. That's created large amounts of small, easily ignited materials that increase the risk and severity of fire.
Could artificial intelligence help fight wildfires? California is testing out a new way to spot fires before they get out of control. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on the AI alarm system.
Every minute counts to prevent a full-blown wildfire. Firefighters are typically alerted only when citizens call 911.
We're in extreme climate right now, and we need to leverage our funds and work together to mitigate the impacts of these natural disasters.
Now the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection has a more efficient approach. Engineers at the University of California, San Diego have developed a new system called Alert California. The platform uses more than 1,000 cameras throughout the state. AI monitors the footage for signs of a blaze.
I use the camera system to, once we do get a call, but if a detection is automatically happening, then that's what can be really helpful to us because it's basically patrolling 24/7.
The system has already proved its potential. A fire recently broke out at 3 a.m. in the Cleveland National Forest. In the dead of night, the blaze could have spread into a raging wildfire, but Cal Fire says artificial intelligence alerted the on-duty fire captain. Within 45 minutes, the fire was out.
5-6 years ago, you'd have to send a battalion or an aircraft, fixed wing or rotary, out to confirm the ignition. So you'd get a 911 call. You'd have to go out and have eyes on the fire. Now you can spin a camera very quickly, determine if there's ignition.
The AI has already become more accurate in just a few weeks, as it learns to tell the difference between clouds, dust, and smoke. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
After the break, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s campaign asks for Secret Service protection again after a presidential candidate in Ecuador was killed. And Senator Joe Manchin plans to skip a major White House event. What could he choose to do next as he distances himself from Biden? More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
Anyone who's ever sold a home can tell you it is really hard. That's why who you work with matters. Together with HomeLight, we've helped thousands of people sell faster and for the best price.
Papa!
This is it. The culmination of everything our young athlete has worked for these past months. He's filled with determination. You can see it in his face. Is today the day he overcomes? And here we go. There is no defense in the world that will keep him at bay. He's on fire. Nothing can stop him. Watch him as he heads towards the goal. Oh, he's rocked hard. But that doesn't stop him. He's a warrior. He's back up. His eyes are on the goal. He's set up for the shot. He shoots. Goal!
Achieving goals like this is only possible with the monthly support of people just like you.
Please call the number on your screen right now and give your monthly support to Shriners Hospitals for Children so other children can reach their goals too.
If you give just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we will send you your very own Love to the Rescue blanket as a reminder of the love you're giving us. Because of monthly support of people like you, nothing is stopping me from achieving my goals.
And here we go. There is no defense in the world that will keep him at bay. He's going left. Oh, he fakes right and continues. Look at those moves. He takes the shot. Goal! Good shot. Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, call again or go to loveshriners.org to give right away. Your monthly gift helps kids achieve their goals. Goal!
I am Li Qing-yung, the founder of Kwai Shan Fang. In Taiwan, we have the world's largest cypress forest. My father especially loves the forest scent emitted by the cypress forest. To bring the forest's fragrance to my father and family, I founded Kwai Shan Fang. We aim to provide you with the most natural cypress forest essence.
Welcome back. Podcaster Joe Rogan says a federal digital currency would be checkmate for society. Here's what the popular podcaster recently said and the opinions of presidential candidates on the topic.
Joe Rogan, one of the most popular podcasters in the U.S., recently sat down with rapper Post Malone for a new episode. At one point, the musician asked Rogan how he feels about a central bank digital currency, or CBDC, issued by the government.
No way. That's what I think. I think that's checkmate. That's game over.
Rogan then went on to describe how, in his opinion, such a digital currency could negatively affect society.
If they decide somehow or another that you need some social credit score system and it's for the benefit of society, and they outline that they can, track your behavior and your tweets and all your things, and then make sure that you comply so that all the other people also comply because they don't want to be stripped of their money. They don't want everything they work for just be taken away instantly overnight and be powerless. No one to call. No one's going to answer your phone.
Rogan and Malone then added that they fear people would use such a digital currency due to the convenience of it. Last year, President Biden instructed the Attorney General and the Fed to produce a legislative proposal to create digital currency within 210 days, about 7 months. The Fed at this time has stated it has no plans to issue a digital dollar soon and will let Congress make that decision. Meanwhile, presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. previously denounced CBDCs for being what he calls instruments of control. He instead promised to back the current U.S. dollar with gold, silver, and even Bitcoin possibly, saying backing dollars and U.S. debt obligations with hard assets could help restore strength back to the dollar, rein in inflation, and usher in a new era of American financial stability, peace, and prosperity. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said he would ban CBDCs if elected president. He already signed a bill banning them in his state.
Officials in Ecuador have made arrests in connection with the assassination of presidential candidate Fernando Villavicencio. The arrests underscore the struggle Ecuador is having with drug cartels. After the shocking daylight assassination of the candidate, officials announced the arrest of 6 Colombians. The men were located hiding in a house in Quito. Police found automatic weapons, ammunition, grenades, and stolen vehicles. The assassination highlights the challenges Ecuador faces after becoming a battlefield for drug smuggling. Future leaders there must face threats from drug cartels. They use Ecuador's 400 miles of coastline in their drug smuggling operations. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s presidential campaign renewed calls for Secret Service protection after an Ecuadorian candidate's assassination. Kennedy's campaign manager publicly called on President Biden to order Secret Service protection for Kennedy. Kennedy said last month that the Biden administration denied his previous protection request. Kennedy says his campaign turned in a 67-page report from the world's leading protection firm that described why Kennedy needs the service. Ecuador presidential candidate Fernando Villavicencio was shot and killed at a political rally on August 9th. He recently promised to get rid of corruption and lock up the country's drug runners. And Kennedy's campaign manager mentioned in a press release how the FBI just shot a man who threatened President Biden. Kennedy's own father was assassinated in 1968 during his presidential campaign. The campaign manager said Kennedy has met all criteria for protection. The White House did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Senator Joe Manchin is skipping a big White House event as speculation rises of a potential party switch, or even a presidential run under a new party. President Biden is holding the event in the White House to mark the first anniversary of the Inflation Reduction Act. Manchin helped Biden push the act through Congress, but has diverged with the president since then on how it's implemented. A Biden aide is keeping in contact with Manchin. NBC reports that this is so that his next move doesn't come as a shock to the president. But a senior White House official downplayed Manchin's absence from the upcoming event, saying it was taking place during a congressional break. Manchin could become the president's opponent in the next presidential election. He's at least said that he is absolutely considering switching from the Democratic Party. Congressman James Comer says Republicans plan to eventually subpoena members of the Biden family. Comer believes new evidence, including the testimony of Hunter Biden associate Devin Archer, directly implicates President Biden in his son's foreign business calls. Comer says the committee intends to bring in 3 or 4 other associates for transcribed interviews. The congressman released a third bank record memo this week allegedly showing $20 million in payments to Hunter Biden and partners from foreign entities during Biden's vice presidency. Comer discussed the allegations.
They were taking money from foreign nationals and they were marketing Joe Biden. Joe Biden was the brand. So that is the first associate that came in, implicated Joe Biden as being the reason they were getting this money. And the money is from bad people. The money is from people who are either incarcerated in the countries where they wired the money, or they are on the flee from being incarcerated. So we're concerned that the president is compromised. This money from the Bidens happened while Joe Biden was vice president, while he was flying to those countries. He flew days after he left Romania. His family started receiving wires from a corrupt Romanian foreign national. Days, like 4 days after he left, including his granddaughter. What's his granddaughter doing getting a wire from a Romanian foreign national?
The White House denies any involvement of President Biden in his son's business dealings and says the GOP-led committee hasn't uncovered any proof of wrongdoing by Biden. A spokesman added that even the GOP's own witness, Devin Archer, testified that he never heard Biden discussing business with his son or his son's associates. Coming up, seniors receiving Social Security find out how the latest cost of living adjustment affects them. And a new age of nuclear energy. A nuclear plant in Georgia is the first to open its doors in 7 years after 12 plants have closed since 2012. We speak with a former energy official when we return.
Coming up next on America's Hope, 2 people who have lost loved ones share their stories of grief and how they've turned their pain into power to help others through their mourning process. That's next on America's Hope.
NTD's Capitol Report. It's about getting answers, cutting through the fog of politics. It's about your questions and our chances to ask.
What is the net impact of the American Congressman Graves? Thank you for joining us.
We're speaking to those in power to find out what does this mean for the people. We're here so you're in the know.
Good morning. I'm Evelyn Lee.
And I'm Kevin Hogan.
The stories that need to be told, the voices that need to be heard, the truth that you need to see. Get unbiased and in-depth news. Don't miss a beat. I'm Stephanie Cox. At NTD, we're here for you.
Welcome back, everyone. Disappointing news for many seniors. The 2024 cost of living adjustment increase for Social Security recipients will likely be a fraction of what it was in 2023. The latest estimate from the Senior Citizens League is around 3%. That amounts to a $54 increase in the current average monthly benefit check. The seniors group found that some 8 in 10 recipients report they're still reeling from inflation. Around 2/3 of retirees who participated in the survey said that high prices have forced them to put off dental care, including major work-life dentures, bridges, and implants. Nearly 1/3 of retirees said they postponed filling prescriptions or getting medical care. The estimate could still change. The group will release its final projection for the 2024 cost of living adjustment on September 13th. The Social Security Administration is expected to announce the actual cost of living adjustment for 2024 sometime in mid-October. A shocking report on how the IRS handles old tax records. A government watchdog found that the tax agency lost track of millions of sensitive tax records of Americans. The Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration issued the report earlier this week. It says the IRS lost track of up to 2,000 microfilm cartridges. They contain roughly 19 million sensitive business and individual tax records of Americans. The report concludes that the IRS is not in compliance with records management requirements. The lost records could be used by criminals to commit identity theft and tax fraud. In light of the findings, the watchdog recommended the IRS carry out a detailed inventory of all microfilm cartridges on hand. In a letter responding to the report, the tax agency blamed long-term underfunding and staff attrition for the problems. The economic outlook might be better than expected despite the slowdown in consumer spending. Wages are up. Joseph Trevisani, senior analyst at FX Street, says consumers are spending reasonably and are likely to continue or increase. I spoke with him to learn more. Joseph Trevisani, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Joseph, consumers are spending more than last year, but spending growth is slowing. What does this tell us about the overall state of the U.S. economy?
The interesting thing about the consumer is the consumer has maintained, despite the inflationary burst of the past 2 years, the consumer has maintained pretty reasonable spending habits. I think we're probably going to see in the next months ahead, despite the recent slowdown, that either be maintained or increased because real wages have started to rise again as inflation has stopped.
Now talk about consumer spending in airlines. It looks like people are traveling for leisure more.
Yes, I think that's true. We just came back from Spain ourselves with my family. I think a lot of that is a recovery of the things that were delayed over the past 3 years. People absolutely did stop traveling. They decided not to go for trips that they were planning on taking. So I think you're seeing a recovery in that.
And what about dining? We know Starbucks missed its revenue goals and Chipotle missed its sales goals recently.
Well, for those particular items, I think you're seeing a result certainly in urban centers of decline in foot traffic. I mean, I live in Manhattan, and certainly I've seen that. There are simply fewer people on the streets because fewer people are coming into the city with the same frequency that they did before to work in the city.
And Joseph, you've said that consumer is really what's keeping the economy afloat. Tell us about that.
Well, the American economy, as everyone knows and has been repeated many, many times over the years, is about 70% driven by consumer spending. As long as that portion of the economy is healthy, it keeps spending, then the economy chugs along, whether or not other items and other inputs into GDP are either weak or faltering.
And like we were talking about before the interview, you were saying real wages are going up.
Yes. For five months now, we've seen a small increase in real wages. It's not a dramatic increase, but it is a dramatic reversal of what we saw for almost the prior 2 years when inflation outpaced consumer wage increases every single month. So that's a positive change.
Let's talk about inflation. It seems like the downward trend from last year's 40-year high might be challenged a little bit recently.
Well, 9.1% is kind of an astonishing number considering how quickly price increases reach that peak. But it is and does seem to be accurate, giving the Fed some credit, although their timing was wrong on calling inflation transitory. In fact, it turns out to be. It was generated by an increase in spending and by product shortages relating back to the lockdowns. So that has stopped. That has come off dramatically. 3% or 3.2% in the last reading in CPI is really not that far from the Fed's 2% goal.
What would it take to get us there?
I think we probably continue at the same trend we're on. The Fed is not going to relent on its rate increases, but I also don't think it's going to increase them or raise the rates much beyond this. If you look at the CME projection for the end of the year, it is at the rates where it is, where the Fed funds is right now, 5.25 to 5.5%. That is where the market expects the Fed to end at the end of the year.
All right, Joseph Trevisani, senior analyst at FX Street. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me. Always a pleasure.
A $1.2 billion deal for giant vacuum cleaners. The Biden administration is pouring that money into new projects that aim to suck carbon out of the air. The Energy Department says the funds will go to 2 demonstration projects in Texas and Louisiana. They will use chemicals to capture carbon dioxide from the air and then store it underground or use it in industrial materials like cement. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm said the initiative will remove more than 2 million tons of carbon dioxide annually. But critics call the approach extravagant because of the high cost of current air capture technology, and the process itself consumes large amounts of energy. Is a nuclear energy renaissance brewing? The U.S. brings the first nuclear reactor online in 7 years. Also, the Biden administration is embracing nuclear like no other Democratic administration, according to the Nuclear Energy Institute. To discuss, I spoke with Bart Marcois, the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of Energy for International Affairs during the Bush administration. He also served as a career Foreign Service officer with the State Department. Bart Marcois, thank you for joining us. Good to have you back on the show.
It's a pleasure to be back, Chris. Thank you.
Bart, the first new nuclear reactor in 7 years just came online after the closing of at least 12 reactors since 2012. How significant is the opening of this reactor?
This is a huge development, Chris. The most important part of this is that this is happening under a Democrat federal administration and then a Democrat-run permitting regime, and they have allowed this to go forward. It signals a new bipartisan era of bipartisan support for nuclear power, which is huge.
What's driving this bipartisan support?
You know, honestly, I don't know. It shocked everybody when the Democrats put this in their 2020 platform. When I saw this plant was coming online, the first thing I did was look up to see who Westinghouse's lobbyists are. And there's not a name there that is a big stellar name. They have several teams of experienced lobbyists who have a background in the industry. And it looks like they have simply done the hard work, spade work, just one shovelful at a time, moving opinions of opinion makers. And they have shifted public opinion as well.
Could we be on the verge of some kind of nuclear revival in the U.S.?
I sure hope so. I sure hope so. There is no way that America can meet its power needs without nuclear energy. I'm a big supporter of every type of energy. The focus on wind and solar is so misguided. There are so many negatives associated with them, environmental negatives, cost negatives, supply chain negatives, origin of resource negatives, and plain old production negatives, the limitations of physics. Nuclear power, in the 50s, they used to, the slogan used to be, it's too cheap to meter. The expense inherent in nuclear power is regulatory compliance, not physical requirements.
Now, nuclear has been controversial for decades, with historical fears and incidents, hindering development. Is there enough public support for Biden to make this a key part of his agenda?
Yeah, that's another thing that's changed over the past 5-10 years. It used to be that Americans were so frightened of nuclear that they opposed it something like almost 60% to 40%. Now those numbers have reversed. That you have a recent Pew Foundation poll showed 55% support for nuclear, 44% opposed. That's a huge shift in public opinion. And I think it's being driven by the understanding that nuclear energy production is safe if you do it right. The 3 Mile Island was done horribly wrong. Chernobyl was done horribly wrong. Fukushima had some inherent flaws. This new design covers every possible safety incident, every possible threat to safety.
It sounds like quite the plot twist here. Bart McCoy, thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And if you have any news tips or feedback for the show, please feel free to email us at news.today@ntd.com. Coming up, government censorship by proxy. Oral arguments for the Missouri versus Biden case took place yesterday. We bring you some of the highlights. And yearly COVID shots still on the table. The director of the CDC says her agency still plans to recommend them. More shortly here on NTD News Today.
Stay tuned to get 2 rolls of alien tape free. You wouldn't stick your mother-in-law on the wall, but you could with alien tape. It just sticks. Just peel and stick to make anything stay in place quick. Brick, pavers, marble, tile, plastic, even leather. Nothing works better than alien tape. You wouldn't stick your fishbowl on a moving car, but you could with alien tape. The secret is nano-stick technology that grabs and locks on to secure one side of the surface to the other. Alien tape secures in seconds, then twist, pull, and rinse to reuse. Call or go online to get your first roll of alien tape for just $19.99, plus shipping and processing. But to make this deal really stick, we'll give you 2 more rolls absolutely free. You get 3 rolls of alien tape for one low price. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-490-1364 or go to tryalientape.com. So call 1-800-490-1364 or order online at tryalientape.com.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I received 2 stents in my arteries, stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. I have met so many survivors. Each of them tells a story that can be so helpful to women out there.
Everything was pretty good. It was a very happy life. I was given the diagnosis that I had peripartum cardiomyopathy, which is basically a pregnancy-induced heart failure. They told me my only chance was a heart transplant.
And the American Heart Association helped make that possible. Their research helped save me.
I think everyone should support the American Heart Association. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR. the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. You can be part of that very important work that the American Heart Association is doing to save lives everywhere. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives.
I'm grateful for just every day that I get with my children. I'm very thankful for the American Heart Association.
Heart disease is America's #1 killer, and your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us now, here are some of today's top headlines. A federal judge partially ruled in favor of Trump today, allowing the former president to share some non-sensitive evidence with the public in his 2020 election case. The death toll in Hawaii fires has climbed to 55, with over 1,000 people still missing. Officials say help is on the way, but recovery could take years. Podcast host Joe Rogan says digital currency is the checkmate of society, and presidential candidates are on the same page. Both Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Ron DeSantis have come out against the digital dollar. Free speech defended? A federal appeals court appears to be leaning in favor of the plaintiffs in a key censorship case. Attorneys general from Missouri and Louisiana sued the Biden administration for what's been called censorship by proxy. They said the Democratic leaders pressured social media companies to censor their users. A U.S. district judge ordered the administration to stop this alleged behavior on July 5th. Joining me now to discuss is NTD Business's Don Ma. Don, the judge from this appeals court said the Biden administration's interactions with social media companies were like a supervisor complaining about a worker.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of hefty allegations here, and there was actually an oral hearing, oral argument on this case yesterday. And let me just read you some of the highlights here. Biden's lawyers said that Americans have actually not been harmed by what the White House has done in this censorship case.
Yeah, and you know, that kind of flies in the face of what the original judge said. I mean, he was saying that essentially there's a lot of evidence to support this. We've seen emails subpoenaed. We know about the Twitter files with Elon Musk, just pointing to, the Biden administration pressuring social media companies.
Yeah, and that's not the only thing it seems like the lawyer is saying yesterday. He also said that the White House or the entities from the government never once actually threatened social media companies into doing this.
Yeah, you know, that again just flies right in the face with what I said earlier. You know, the judge in this case was saying that, at least in the appeals court, was saying that it's like a supervisor complaining about a worker, describing the Biden administration putting pressure on these social media companies.
Yeah, and I guess really what we're looking for here is evidence. So earlier I spoke to NCLA. This is a group that actually is representing clients who are part of this case. And I spoke to them. I asked them about, how they feel about what was said yesterday in the oral arguments. I asked them if they could give us examples of evidence. But yeah, let's take a look at that interview right now. And now joining me is NCLA Senior Litigation Counsel Jeanette Brown. So first, let's make sure that everyone's on the same page here. Just briefly, if you wouldn't mind explaining, what is the Missouri v. Biden case and what is NCLA's part in this?
Sure, absolutely. The Missouri v. Biden case, it's two states, Missouri and Louisiana, have 5 individuals, 4 of whom we represent, have brought a lawsuit against 67 defendants who, including the president, all of whom are in the executive branch, basically saying that they have violated the First Amendment by coercing or otherwise manipulating social media companies to censor speech viewpoint-directed speech on the various social media platforms. But the basic allegations are whether it's related to COVID-19, election integrity, and other topics that we touch on, the White House, the FBI, various parts of the federal government reach out to the social media and explicitly flag for them content and types of content that they want removed. And as a result, ultimately, in most cases, the social media companies were taking down platforms, they were deplatforming people, they were suspending people, fact-checking people, various levels of turning down or turning off their speech.
So they were removing speech in the case of COVID, for example, simply because the messaging was different from the government.
100%. The White House in particular, but other agencies as well, were extremely laser focused on removing anything that they considered that would induce hesitancy to take the vaccine.
So there was an oral argument yesterday, and Biden's lawyers said that they have never threatened social media companies into censoring free speech. What is your response to that?
I think the government doesn't know when it's threatening people, and I think that in and of itself is problematic. The government's view essentially is if we come to you 99 times and say, that's a despicable business you have, it's based on a premise that we have the power to destroy, and we're inclined to do so. And then they come to you later and say, you know what would make you less despicable is if you become our tool. That's not coercion, but it is. They are threatening, serious consequences, billions of dollars of impact to these social media companies. Their theory is that, until we break their will, they're actually just going along with us because they want to.
All right, thank you so much today.
Thank you so much for your time.
The CDC is still planning on recommending an annual COVID-19 shot. The agency's director wants people to see it like an annual flu shot. The agency's director, Mandy Cohen, said in a podcast that the agency will likely make the recommendation in the coming weeks. Congressman Brad Wenstrup recently questioned her over what data supports the annual shots and asked for a briefing on the matter. He gave the agency until August 16th to provide answers. U.S. officials initially said people would only need a primary series of shots to protect themselves against COVID-19 and recommended vaccination for virtually everyone. Less than a year later, they authorized and advised boosters to try to stem waning immunity. As new variants emerge, the mRNA vaccines perform worse. If you like to cool down with a frozen treat, check your freezer first. The Food and Drug Administration thinks a multi-state Listeria outbreak may be connected to ice cream cups. So far, 2 people have been hospitalized. Investigators tested an unopened container of soft serve on the go from one of those patients' freezers, and it tested positive for the bacteria. Real Kosher Ice Cream has recalled its soft serve cups on the go. They are sold in 19 states and Washington, D.C. A pilot error caused the near crash of a United Airlines flight. That's what federal investigators are saying about the frightening moment last December when the flight 1722 came about 800 feet from plunging into the Pacific Ocean. The incident, with 270 passengers on board, took place right after the Boeing 777 departed Hawaii's Kahului Airport amid heavy rain and turbulence. The plane took a dramatic dive after an apparent miscommunication between the 2 pilots over the position of the plane's wing flaps. The pilots were able to increase altitude and resume normal flight. That's according to the last report by the National Transportation Safety Board. The report says United Airlines has since changed its training procedures regarding flight path management. The pilots involved in the incident received additional training as well. College professors are scrambling for ways to make tests uncheatable. As students are cheating more with AI tools, some professors are returning to traditional paper exams. It's affecting college professors across the country. The professors are using different tactics to slow down cheating using the ChatGPT tool. Some are using paper exams instead of digital exams. Others require students to show their draft history or essay assignments. Warnings about using AI for schoolwork are becoming more common. In a survey from College Rover, 60% of students don't want schools to ban AI. The survey found 41% of college students use ChatGPT a few times a week, 10% use it once a day, and 9% use it multiple times per day. Kids are headed back to class soon, and some experts are predicting an increase in back-to-school spending this year, even with a slight slowdown in inflation. Here's a look at how much more parents are spending and 5 tips to save some cash.
New school year, new expenses. Parents are shelling out more cash in 2023 to send their kids back to class. According to a new Retail Me Not survey, the average American household will spend $1,498 on back-to-school supplies, electronics, and clothes. That's $251 more than last year's spending average. Just like with everything else that costs more, experts say parents can blame inflation.
It adds up so fast. It's kind of like Christmas. We're buying 100 different things from 100 different vendors, and it's so easy to lose track.
So, what can you do to save money and avoid a back-to-school spending hangover? Jessica Allen from the website Living Well, Spending Less has 5 tips. 1. Take inventory of what you already have, and then decide what you really need right now, and put the rest on a wish list. 2. Set a budget, and then involve your kids with the shopping.
The easiest way to do this is to give them the cash. This is a life skill. The budgeting is a life skill, and actually paying for items at the counter and interacting with the service staff.
3. Buy in bulk and split the cost with other parents, neighbors, or friends. 4. Stretch those electronics a bit longer instead of splurging on new ones.
Look into items that you can swap or pass down. Is there a graduated senior who no longer needs that graphing calculator?
And finally, wait for the shopping rush to pass.
Wait until your children get into their classes and see what the teacher is actually asking for.
Over to San Francisco, where X is holding a garage sale. The company is auctioning off remnants of its old brand, Twitter. Specialty items for sale include a reconstructed barn and a large bird cage welded with a Twitter logo. 2 paintings depict Ellen DeGeneres' 2014 Oscar selfie, and former President Barack Obama celebrating his re-election. Even mundane office equipment and refrigerators will be on the auction block. The over 580 items open at $25 each, and bidding is set for next month. Twitter auctioned similar memorabilia in January as part of Elon Musk's remake of the company. Gladiators, raise your swords. Elon Musk evoked the ancient fighters when providing more info on his looming cage battle with Meta titan Mark Zuckerberg. Musk wrote on X that everything in the camera frame will be ancient Rome. The entrepreneur says he has spoken to the Prime Minister of Italy and the Minister of Culture, and that they have agreed on an epic location. Musk says that the fight will respect Italy and past and present. As for the platform, the fight will reportedly live stream on both X and Meta. Musk says UFC won't be involved, and the battle will be managed by his and Zuckerberg's foundations. He adds that all proceeds will go to veterans. Coming up, NTD's Chinese dance competition is approaching. Why classical Chinese dance? And what does it take to win? I sit down with a judge to discuss. More shortly here on NTD News Today.
Say goodbye to harsh, bitter coffee and hello to a delicious, smooth brew. With specialty quality beans, expertly roasted in-house, you'll taste the difference with every sip. Fermented with a blend of 50 enzymes, Days Coffee delivers a rich brew like no other. Made with the highest grade specialty beans available, you're sure to taste the difference. Elevate your morning with Day's enzyme fermented coffee.
One in 5 children worldwide are faced with the reality of living without food. No family dinners, no special treats, no full bellies. All around the world, parents are struggling to feed their children. Toddlers are suffering from acute malnutrition, which stunts their growth. Kids are forced to drop out of school so they can help support their families. COVID, conflict, inflation, and climate have ignited the worst famine in our lifetime. And we're fed up. Fed up with the fact that hunger robs children of their childhood. Fed up with the lack of progress. Fed up with the injustice. Help us brighten the lives of children all over the world by visiting getfedupnow.org. For as little as $10 a month, you can join Save the Children as we support children and families in desperate need of our help. Now is the time to get fed up and give back. When you join the cause, your $10 monthly donation can help communities in need of life-saving treatments and nutrients. Prevent children from dropping out of school. Support our work with communities and governments to help children go from short-term surviving to long-term thriving. And now, thanks to special government grants, every dollar you give before December 31st can multiply up to 10 times the impact. That means more food, water, medicine, and help for kids around the world. You'll also receive a free tote bag to share your support for children in need. Childhood without food is unimaginable. Get fed up. Call us now or visit getfedupnow.org today.
Thanks for staying with us. Classical Chinese dance brings traditional culture to the world. That's according to William Lee, a principal dancer for Shenyun Performing Arts and a judge for the NTD Classical Chinese Dance Competition this year. I spoke with him about this ancient art form and his expectations for the competition.
The dancers will have a narrative piece and also a technical piece. So in the narrative piece, you'll see them portray a lot of different characters from Chinese history. From 5,000 years history, they can portray any single character because classical Chinese dance is very, very expressive. And in the technical piece, you'll see a lot of different and very amazing and spectacular technical movements.
I asked Lee what the difference between classical Chinese dance and ballet is.
But classical Chinese dance has 5,000 years of history. So through generations and through dynasties, classical Chinese dance has been passed down through the imperial courts and through the people. And throughout time, it has been absorbing the essence of Chinese history and Chinese culture. And what you see on stage today is like accumulation of all that history and culture.
As for the difference between classical Chinese dance and modern dance?
Modern dance really emphasizes freedom of expression, I would say, and like fluidity. But in classical Chinese dance, there are still guidelines, and we call this shenfa. So this is the name of the poses, the requirement for the poses, and everything in between, like the process.
The purpose of the NTD, International Classical Chinese Dance Competition, is to promote authentic dance characterized by beauty, goodness, and purity. But how can dancers best demonstrate these values in their performances?
The most important thing is to try to put these values and live by these values in your daily lives. So the way that you carry yourself normally is going to be how you carry yourself on stage, and it's going to reflect through your dance movements.
Lee's message to contestants?
It's really a competition against yourself. You can always compete multiple times, and it doesn't matter how you place, but as long as you're improving year over year, and that's something that I've been seeing every time. You guys are definitely improving, so just keep it up and see if you improve every year. Compete with yourself.
And his hopes for the impact the competition will have on the world?
I really hope that this competition can help raise more awareness and just shed more light on what classical Chinese dance is, and I hope that it can reach more people because it's something that is really, really beautiful. And Chinese culture is something that is so rich, so beautiful, and I think more people can learn about it. There's a lot of wisdom, I feel, that you can learn from traditional Chinese culture, and it's something that can be very impactful, not only to your own life, but maybe even to your business. So I think it's something that's beneficial to society.
The NTD International Classical Chinese Dance Competition will take place at Purchase College in Purchase, New York on September 9th and 10th. You can buy your tickets at dance.ntd.com. The Leaning Tower of Pisa, one of the most popular landmarks in the world, is now a stable monument. As the famous bell tower celebrates its 850th birthday, experts affirm that its future is bright. Satellite and terrestrial surveillance keep tabs on even the slightest shift in its position, making it one of the most monitored landmarks in the world. That's a different scenario from what was seen in the early 90s when the tower reached a lean of 4.5 degrees. After an international effort to stop it from toppling over, the inclination has decreased and returned to that of the early 19th century. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm Chris Beers.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.